Days, a bit of mist in the air, 37 degrees. It feels like 32 outside this morning.
Local information that makes a difference. Here's your regional weather.
A slight chance of lingering showers early this morning, otherwise cloudy today with highs around 40 degrees. Rain could see some snow tonight with little to no accumulation expected. Temperatures around 30 degrees. Tonight a west-northwest wind at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Sunny for your Friday with a high of 50 degrees. Partly cloudy Friday night, lows in the mid-30s. Rain on your Saturday. Temperatures in the around 50 degrees. A southeast wind will shift from the west by the afternoon at 20 to 30 miles per hour, between a tenth and a quarter of an inch of new rainfall on Saturday. A 50% chance of rain into the evening. Otherwise cloudy, lows in the mid-30s. For your Sunday, sunny, highs in the upper 50s. And into next week, a 40% chance of rain on Monday. Otherwise cloudy with highs in the mid-50s. Across central Illinois, as we continue to roll through this Thursday morning, right now in Bloomington, temperatures at 35 degrees, 36 in Hayworth and Leroy, 36 in Farmer City, 37 in Champaign and Monticello, 38 in Decatur, 37 in Lincoln, 37 in Springfield, and 36 in Peoria. 37 overcast in Clinton. It feels like 32 degrees outside. West winds at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. 97% humidity, 10 miles of visibility here on this Friday. Before we get to news in this hour, let's take a look at some of those rainfall totals that we've seen reported here so far today. We start here in DeWitt County and over by Farmer City, 1 6/10 inches of rainfall reported in DeWitt County. We move to the west in Logan County, just north of Mount Pulaski, 1.5 inches of rainfall reported north of Mount Pulaski in Logan County. Outside of Leroy, 1.25 inches reported in McLean County. Meanwhile, in Bloomington Normal, 1.8 inches reported. In the southern portion of Woodford County, near Congerville, 1.9 inches of rainfall. Rantoul in Champaign County, 1.8 inches. Mahomet in Champaign County. On the west side of the community, 1.9 inches. Meanwhile, on the east side of the community, 2.1 inches of rainfall reported there. In Champaign, 1.9 inches, just off the highway outside Urbana, 1.8 inches, just off the university campus, 1.9 inches, near Savoy in Champaign County, 1.8 inches reported as well. In St. Joseph, 1.9 inches reported, just north of Homer, 2.1 inches of rainfall. In Champaign County, at the Champaign-Vermilion County line, 1.8 inches being reported there as well. Shelbyville in Shelby County, 2 inches and 6/10 reported. 2.1 inches reported in Taylorville yesterday, just outside of Edinburgh. 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches of rainfall in Springfield yesterday. So a lot of rain falling in central Illinois in the last 24 hours. And as always, those rainfall totals come to you courtesy of CocoRoz.org. That's the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network, CocoRoz.org. 10 minutes after the hour is the news time here on WHOW. Let's take a look at the news this morning.
From regional radio to WinDailyNews.com and the WHOW app. This is local information making a difference.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. Coverage of the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. And coverage of news brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. A staple of the community of Lincoln for over a century is closing its doors permanently in May. Lincoln College has notified the Illinois Department of Higher Education and Higher Learning Commission of its permanent closure effective May 13th. The Board of Trustees has voted to cease all academic programming at the end of the spring semester. In a statement released Wednesday, the institution highlighted its navigation through many difficult and challenging times, including the economic crisis of 1887, a major campus fire in 1912, the Spanish flu of 1918, the Great Depression, World War II, the 2008 global financial crisis, and more. However, this situation was different, and Lincoln College needs help to survive. The release noted the record-breaking student enrollment in the fall of 2019 with residence halls at max capacity. Unfortunately, the coronavirus pandemic dramatically impacted recruitment and fundraising, sporting events, and campus life activities. The economic burdens initiated by the pandemic required large investments in technology and campus safety measures, as well as a significant drop in enrollment, with students choosing to postpone college or take a leave of absence, which impacted the institution's financial position. Furthermore, Lincoln College was a victim of a cyber attack in December of 2021, which thwarted admissions activities and hindered access to all institutional data, creating an unclear picture of the fall 2022 enrollment projections. All systems required for recruitment, retention, and fundraising efforts were inoperable. Fortunately, no personal identifying information was exposed, and once fully restored in March 2022, the projections displayed significant enrollment shortfalls, requiring a transformational donation or partnership to sustain Lincoln College beyond the current semester. President Dr. David Gerlach said Lincoln College had been serving students from across the globe for more than 157 years, and the loss of history, careers, and a community of students and alumni is immense. The institution has worked tirelessly to strengthen its financial position through fundraising campaigns, selling of assets, consolidating employee positions, and exploring alternatives for the leased building in Normal. Unfortunately, those efforts did not create long-term viability for Lincoln College in the face of the coronavirus pandemic. Lincoln College encourages individuals to review the frequently asked documents on the Lincoln College website for more information regarding the closure process. Academic support and transitional services will be available to students through the remainder of the semester. Thursday was Doctors' Day, and the chief executive of a DeWitt County healthcare facility is encouraging the public to get back to those doctor preventative appointments. Paul Skowron is the CEO of Warner Hospital and Health Services, and on the WHOW Morning Show Wednesday told regional radio doctors the last few years have been pushed to the limit, and he is appreciative of all those that serve our communities, especially doctors within Warner Hospital.
We reach out to all the doctors on Doctors' Day with a little gift and so forth, but especially after COVID and having them support us and take care of the community during COVID, it's an special appreciation for all the doctors that refer patients and frequent our hospital. For the last couple of years, doctors were almost forced to employ telehealth to a large degree because folks couldn't come into the hospital as a result of COVID, and that fever has broken, so to speak, and folks much prefer to come in to the facility for their office visits, their wellness visits, their checkups. And it's a really good thing that they are finally coming in, because we're finding that a lot of diagnosis under the surface has been building up. And so we're finding, irregular heartbeats, and just people should be having that colonoscopy and their mammograms just to get in a regular routine visit to have an EKG done. You'd be surprised the kind of things that surface that have been building up. So we're very busy now, and it's a good thing that folks are coming out and getting their health checked.
If you're in your 30s or 40s, Skowron is especially encouraging you to get in and have a preventative health checkup. He says that age group is most susceptible to ignoring their health, and it often takes a significant health event for them to begin to take this advice seriously.
Those are the ones that ignore their health the most, because a lot of young folks that don't have underlying problems, hereditary problems, and so forth, pretty much feel bulletproof until that first health occurrence comes up.
Right.
And that's when they find out that they have built up some conditions since college that need attention. So absolutely, the younger and the middle-aged folks should be thinking preventative health care just like their diets. They should be thinking about their diets. That's preventative health. We really have to get back to preventative health. That's what we're really pushing. That's what wellness visits are. When you get a call from your doctor saying you're due for a wellness visit, it's really what, in the old days, they just said you're due for a checkup. People have gotten out of that routine. It's when you don't do the preventative health that the more serious and the more expensive healthcare results, all the way up to surgeries and cancers and all these kind of things. Cancer screenings are so important. We can't stress enough the preventative healthcare.
Skowron stresses for the COVID conscious, healthcare facilities are still under COVID guidance laid out by the governor's emergency order.
So we're still under the governor's emergency order, and so healthcare facilities must wear masks. But we've always been about infection control. Even after the healthcare order is removed, our employees that feel that now they're more comfortable wearing a mask, they'll be wearing a mask. We have done some things within the facility in the last 6 to 12 months to improve infection control and the patient flow within the hospital. But in family medicine, we just finished a remodeling project where the nurses will be separated from the patients more than they were before, and there'll be less flow of other employees and patients in their work area, so that they'll be safer. And there'll be better HIPAA control too. You won't be able to hear a nurse discussing, down the hallway, some patient's health history. And so we've learned some lessons, and we've done some remodeling already. And then in our capital budget, we're projecting some additional measures that we'll be discussing here.
Skowron indicates Warner Hospital and Health Services is starting to see a normal return to the health issues of this time of year, like colds, flu, and seasonal allergies. It's 18 minutes after the hour here on this Thursday morning. Cloudy skies in Clinton, 37 degrees. It feels like 32. More to come on the morning show.
New trucks and SUVs are coming here at Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. This is Scott Baum. Yes, we have new inventory arriving, and you can see what will arrive right on our website. Just click on the pre-order and reserve tab. From there, you'll find vehicles in transit and vehicles in production. Or just call our sales staff and we'll help. Find Silverados, Equinoxes, Blazers, including Tahoes and Suburbans, as well as our complete Buick line of SUVs. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
19 minutes after the hour here on this Thursday morning. Again, coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Rising input costs also are impacting specialty growers. Randy Graham runs Curtis Orchard and Pumpkin Patch in Champaign.
Inflationary period like this really complicates our operation, especially when it's so volatile and seems to be moving higher at such a rapid pace. Because what we try to do every year is set our prices for the season, and we usually do that now. And the last couple of years, it's been very difficult because prices have been moving higher, but everything moves higher at a different rate. So like input costs for the bakery last year were just crazy. I mean, they talk about 7-8% inflation on the national level, but we were seeing 50, sometimes 100% increases in some input costs for ingredients and things like that. Well, how do you set your price for the season when something like that happens in season? And this year we're looking at the way energy costs have gone up and inputs for fertilizer and all these different things. It makes it very difficult to set your pricing so that you're fair to the customer, and yet you're still coming out good enough that you can keep operating and have a little bit of income for growth and maintaining what your operation's already been doing. So yeah, we're very challenged by it because we really don't like to change prices mid-season. We get people that come out every week and they sort of get this expectation, but we may have to look at a more dynamic model where we have to change prices as necessary, like you're seeing everywhere else in town, from dollar stores that are now $1.25 to groceries and everything else.
Graham also serves as the chairman of the Illinois Specialty Growers Association. Illinois lawmakers are voting to require public schools to offer vegetarian-friendly foods at lunch. The bill mandates districts provide plant-based options to students requesting them and is sponsored by Senator Dave Kohler of Peoria. He says it shouldn't be too big of a burden for schools and gives kids more healthy food choices.
As a practicing vegetarian, there is not a lot of difference between the cost of food. So I think this is a good approach, and I think that this is not going to affect all schools because you may have students that don't request this.
Senator Jill Tracy of Quincy says this is another unfunded mandate for Illinois schools.
Local control and allowing a school district to function to serve the constituency that their students require is a much more reasoned way to go about this.
It's now up to the governor to sign the bill into law. More than $150 million in utility assistance is available to Illinois families in need. The money is to help pay utility bills, including natural gas, propane, and electricity, says State Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Director Sylvia Garcia.
That's the regular, what we call LIHEAP program. And then in addition to that, we've got our UDAP program, which is our utility disconnection avoidance program, which is specifically for folks that are on the shutoff list right now. It's a one-time payment of $250 or more, depending on what the backlog of bills are to get you off that shutoff list.
Garcia says the money covers a variety of situations.
It includes regular assistance, so you can just apply. It's a program that exists every year where if you meet the income qualifications, you can just get assistance up to $1,000. If you're having issues with paying your bills and you may have a backlog and you may be at risk of being shut off, there's emergency assistance that's available there.
For more information, visit helpillinoisfamilies.com. Senate Democrats are pushing legislation to help make college more affordable in Illinois. One of the bills is sponsored by Senator Laura Murphy of Des Plaines, creating a new tax credit for students who attend an in-state school.
It's going to be a bridge for a lot of middle-class families. There'll be up to $1,000 tax credit if you send your students to Illinois universities or colleges.
Another measure lets MAP grant recipients use the money for things like room and board and books, and a third requires public colleges to provide books and course materials free to students.
So these students will be able to take what's left over in their MAP grants and apply that to things like books, supplies, electronics that they need to purchase in order to achieve their education.
The bill is still being negotiated to find the best option for making this happen. New legislation aims to improve protections for health insurance consumers in Illinois. The bill is supported by the State Department of Insurance and does several things, says Director Dana Popish Severnhaus. That includes limiting how long patients have to wait to get in to see an in-network provider.
The bill also creates a more generous provider-to-patient ratio than is recommended under federal regulations. That means saying, for example, you have to have X amount of oncologists for every 1,000 people or whatever the case might be.
The measure would also let the department inform the public that an insurer is being investigated, although details would still be confidential until the case is finalized.
So that means providers would have to say whether they're accepting new patients or not. The bill will allow us to establish strict wait times so that if it takes too long to see a provider, the insurer is going to have to pay for the out-of-network provider at an in-network rate.
The legislation also lets the department disclose that a company is being looked at for potential violations. Supporters hope to get it passed during the spring session. Studies have shown many of us don't get the sleep we need to function well. This may be a cause of farm accidents. Gary Crawford looks closer.
Researchers say up to a third of Americans are not getting the proper sleep their bodies and brains need. The Centers for Disease Control say this is a national health problem, and in the opinion of one expert,
it's essentially another pandemic.
And a particularly hazardous one on the farms. This from Susan Harris. She's a nurse and sleep expert with the University of Nebraska Extension Service. She's spent much of her career studying sleep, educating and advising people about it, especially farm and farm workers. She says sleep deprivation produces the same effects in the body as being drunk.
Difficulty concentrating, we just become klutzier, we make poor decisions, which becomes a huge problem on farm and ranch properties because we know how dangerous farming and ranching is anyway. And then to add to it, this fatigue factor becomes life-threatening.
Not just for adult farmers and farm workers. Susan Harris says the danger on the farm is even greater for adolescents and teens working around the farm. First, to lay the groundwork, studies show that teens and adolescents don't need the standard 8 hours of sleep a night to function well. They actually need over 9 hours. Tests show they're impaired mentally and physically with less than 9 hours of sleep. But how much do they actually get? Well, in one study, almost 70% of high school students reported sleeping 7 hours or less a night, sometimes much less.
This is so unhealthy. This is their growth time. They need that sleep to form their brains and to have coordination and to do things rationally. And when we know that they're sleeping less than 7 hours when they should be sleeping at least 9 to 10 hours, there's a problem.
And unfortunately, it shows up especially among teens who do work on farms. And here's another study that says
adolescents on farms are 2 to 3 times more likely to be injured if they get less than 9 hours and 15 minutes per night. So truly, they should have at least 9 to 10 hours.
But again, almost 70% of high school students get less than 7 hours of night. That means a much higher risk of being injured doing their work on the farm. But Susan Harris says the dangers of sleep deprivation extend to everybody on farms and off, everyone who travels the streets and highways of this country.
Sleepiness accounts for the highest number of fatal single-car run-off-the-road crashes, even more than alcohol and drugs combined.
About 6,000 fatal single-car accidents every year caused by drowsy drivers, and she says there's no telling how many farm accidents result from people who are impaired by just not getting the sleep they need. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
28 minutes after the hour here on this Thursday morning. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. A quick look at some of those rainfall totals from yesterday. We've got a couple here in DeWitt County over by Farmer City, one of about 1.5 inches, the other of 1 6/10 inches, 1.5 inches to 1 7/10 inches reported in Lincoln in Logan County. Champaign-Urbana about 1 8/8 inches, 1 9/10 inches reported there, 1 8/8 inches reported in Bloomington Normal yesterday as well. Get the latest in local weather anytime from your computer or mobile device.